So, very good morning, students, and welcome. Today, we are going to discuss about the characteristics of Indian dairy processing and export industry. You know, dairy processing industry or dairy as such, dairying as such in India is very unique. It has unique production, it has unique processing, it has unique marketing. So its entire value chain is quite unique. Indian dairy industry is dominated by the smallholders, milk producers. More than 150 million producers are there who are either a small, marginal or lenders. So it is dominated by the smallholders who possess hardly one, two, or a few animals. Their herd size is very small. Production is scattered across the region. And then they produce, since the productivity of animals is very small, so the marketable surplus is also very small. Whatever they produce, about 50% or more than 50% is consumed domestically, and only remaining 50% or 49% comes to the market as a marketable surplus. Their herd size are very small. I have already told you that hardly 1, 2, 3 animals. And productivity of animals are also very low. You are very much aware of that. And mostly the produced milk are sold in liquid form. So value addition at the farm level is very meager, very less. Milks are sold in liquid form. And many of milk producers are marketing through various formal or informal chains. And among formal chains, cooperatives dominate. So there are cooperatives, then there are organized private processing firms who are registered under MMPO. And then other channels are informal, where dudhiyas and milk vendors, halwais are there and who buy the sale from the producers. Then when we say about the production, although India is the largest milk producing country in the world, you know, milk, and it has current milk production 187.7 million tons, and the per capita availability is 394 grams per day per person. Despite we are a very insignificant player in the world trade, in the world market, international dairy markets. And the production is often constant with low productivity of milk animals. You know, we have the production which is animal driven, number of animal driven. We have almost more than 300 million milk cattle and buffaloes. And then their productivity is very less. The productivity of crossbred animals are although high, but in general, we take the average productivity of all pulled together, then the productivity of animals are very, very, very small. And then the milks are produced in traditional form, in very unscientific manner, I will say, don't say unhygienic, but the produced milk quality is also not that much good. The low milk productivity, India, the world dairy animal stock of 17% is in India, and you know USA has only 6% of animal stock, but it produces 12.5% of milk, world milk production. So contribution of India, although in terms of animals are high, but in milk production we only produce 15%. Average milk productivity, crossbred cows 6.44 kg per day, indigenous cow 1.97, less than 2 kg per day, and buffaloes 4.3 kg. So this is the scenario of productivity, very low productivity in comparison to other nations, other developed nations. Then there exists wide interstate and interdistrict variations. There are regions in India also, like Gujarat, Maharashtra, you know, Punjab. The productivity of animals are high. They keep high milk yielding animals. Whereas in case of our side, Bihar and other, the average productivity is comparatively low, and in eastern India, if you go, the average productivity is even less. So there is a lot of variations between the productivity of animals among the states. India has largest number of milk animals. I have already told you that we have more than 300 cattle and buffalo, but their productivity in terms of milk output is very low. This requires appropriate policy measures. So apart from other measures, policy measures are also important and should be taken. And one of the major policy measure is the breeding program. So Bihar has also developed its own breeding program, and in terms of breeding, intervention in terms of breeding programs, policies to improve the cattle, the productivity of cattle and buffalo is essential. Then maximum use of artificial insemination could be of help. Still, the coverage of artificial insemination is very low, and the failure rate is also high. AI often fails. 2-3 AIs are required. Balanced feeding is one of the important area. Still, the cattle are fed, the buffaloes are fed traditionally, whereas it is essential to formulate the cattle feed scientifically, and balanced feeding should be provided, mineral mixtures should be given. So policy interventions are very important, and it is essential to take desirable policy interventions in terms of breeding, feeding, and management. And then disease control, health is also very important. So all the policy interventions on all these four aspects are very, very much helpful and required. The bacteriological quality of raw milk is also very poor, because we are not much concerned about the, or I can say that we are not that much aware, our producers are not that much aware about the aspects of hygiene, aspects of cleanliness. The milks are produced in unhygienic conditions. The milkman who milks the milk doesn't know the standard operating procedures, the good management practices, and that is why knowingly or unknowingly the milk get contaminated, get infected, and that impairs the quality of the milk. Due to existence of unhygienic condition at the place of milking, and then improper subsequent storage conditions give rise to high bacterial count. Bacterial load is very high, and thus bacteriologically the quality of milk in India is very poor compared to developed and Western nations. Then there are other issues also, like sanitary and phytosanitary measures. The count of coliform in Indian milk are often found very high. So these are the aspects that challenge, that constrain the quality of milk, that we produce, and it is very much essential to produce the milk which has good quality, so that we can sustain, we can stand, we can harness the benefits of international markets and other markets, because people are becoming quality concerned. They are ready to pay high for the quality products, and we are still much behind in terms of quality of milk production. The major reason for this condition is lack of awareness, as I told you, among milk producers, and lack of incentives for clean milk production. Sometimes our producers are not aware, and then sometimes, though they know the advantages of quality milk production, but conforming to the desirable quality milk production, it requires certain measures, require cleanliness, utensils should be cleaned, properly washed, hands should be sterilized. All these requires additional resources, and that adds to the cost of milk, but there is no incentive for that, and that is why sometimes they ignore those practices. So it is voluntarily, or sometimes it is involuntarily, but it is essential that the quality of milk should be given considerable priority, considerable importance, because the final product depends on the quality of the raw material. And even if we want to go into the international market, our products are often rejected because of the quality which is challenged. By arranging requisite training programs for milk producers and providing incentives in form of higher milk price and technology upgradation in collection and storing raw milk can help improve quality of milk. So these are the measures which can be suggested. It can be taken that you arrange the training for the milk producers and provide incentives in form of higher milk price and upgrade the technologies, and with the help of technologies, with the help of mechanical milking, it can be improved, and we can certainly harness the benefits of international markets or other markets. Then processing and value addition. Low processing addition, India still the level of processing value addition is very low. About 35 to 36% of milk produce in India is processed, and the contribution of organized sector is hardly 13 to 15%. So still a large chunk of Indian milk market is in the hand of informal players, and the organized sectors only processes 13 to 15% of milk, and that too, most of the milk is sold. The processing is confined up to the pasteurization of milk, and milk is sold in liquid form. Then processing. Of the total milk produced, only about 35% is processed. We have already discussed. The share of organized sector is less compared to unorganized sector. So still there is dominance of unorganized sector. The milk supply chain is dominated by the informal players. They are Dudias, they are Alwais, they are the small processors in the villages who are not that much aware about the quality, who are not that much aware about do not have that much concern about the quality, and it is and farmers are constant because their marketable surplus is very tiny. Hardly you have seen that the average milk production is 2 liters or 4.5 liters. Out of that, 50% they keep for their own consumption. So even if they have 1 or 2 animals, they can hardly generate marketable surplus of 2 kgs or 3 kgs. And it is difficult to carry those 2 or 3 kgs to the urban centers or the centers which are organized. And therefore, they are compelled to sell their products in the hand of Dudiyas or in the hand vendors who are there in the market, who are there available in the village, and whatever price they give, they have to accept that. So this is one of the major reasons. Then the unorganized sector comprise halwais and milk vendors. I have told you, organized sectors has cooperatives. The organized sectors have the processing plants which are registered under the MMPO. Then, as only limited amount of milk is processed and handled by organized sector, there exists a vast growth potential. So this is an opportunity also, because the organized sector still handles very less amount of milk, and if we go for organized dairy farming or organized processing, then a lot of opportunities exist here. It can be harnessed if we go for scientific milk production, if we go for processing the products which has good quality, then certainly there exists a lot of potential for the entrepreneurs who can convert these challenges into the opportunities. As I have told you, after delicensing of dairy sector, the milk processing capacity has grown at 4%. So earlier there was MMPO, still it is there, but that was restrictive. The approach was milk shed area approach. No other firms, no other organizations were allowed to operate in the milk shed areas. So that became restrictive, and considering the restrictive nature of that, Government of India abolished the MMPO. Now it is there, but it is only for registering the dairy farms. And once the delicensing has been done, there has been a boom in the a surge in the milk processing, and it is growing at the rate of 4%. Capacity has grown at the rate of 4%. More number of plants has come up in private sector as compared to cooperative setups. There are 2 types of setups. One is under corporate sector, another is under cooperative sectors. Corporate sectors are dominated by the private, and firms and cooperatives are run by the farmers, the farmer members. So we have these 2 types of models, mainly these two types of model. Other models are also there. Contract farming in milk production is emerging, and one can go for that also. As an entrepreneur, one can associate the farmers, establish link with the farmers, forward and backward linkage with the farmers, and then harness the benefits of contract farming. So different kinds of models are emerging, but the main these two types of models are there. The problematic issue on processing front includes seasonal and regional imbalance. You know, there is lean, there is precision. Then regional imbalances are also there, and limited flexibility to change product matrix. So it is one of the area where we have product lines, we have the units which deals in certain types of particular types of milk and milk products. And our system is not that flexible. We can't switch immediately, and this is one of the reasons we can't change our product mix because our system, our technology, our arrangements are not that much conducive to that. And then lack of commercialization and government taxations. You know, government charges taxes, and it was recommended, it has been recommended that cooperative sector should be exempted from the taxes. Government still charges tax from the cooperatives, which makes the price of milk high. Then export. India is the largest milk producing country, you know. Still, we have discussed already in the world. However, it is a minor player in world dairy markets. Our reach in international market is hardly 0.8 to 0.9%. So we are still lagging behind. We have still noticed even the 1% of the world trade, and this is the area where one can take lead by producing the quality products, by making available the quality products. Export of dairy products from India is negligible, and there is need-based occasional import in a small quantities. So sometimes we have exported casein, we have exported milk powder also, but our importing countries are exporting countries are Bhutan, Afghanistan. So these are all neighboring countries. Our reach to the developed countries are still very, very less. From India, the export of dairy products has increased to countries like Bhutan, Afghanistan, Canada, Egypt, United Arab Emirates. So these are the countries. But there are a number of countries where we can certainly send our products if the products are of good quality, products are conforming to their requirements. Indian milk producers does not receive any subsidy, whereas there are countries who give heavy subsidy to their dairy sector. So Indian dairy dairy producers often fail to compete with them because the other countries provide high subsidy, and due to subsidy they become competitive. In post-world WTO world, there is possibility that Indian milk products can not compete with those from many developed nations with dominated global dairy markets. Naturally, because they have enough government support in terms of subsidies, technologies, and they are already there operating in the markets. And they sometimes you might be aware that the price of milk powder was very high some years ago. When India started producing milk powder, what happened? India is a huge country. A lot of milk powders were produced here, and the world market price of milk powder declined fast, very fast. There was a very fast decline, and because of that, the Indian processors has to suffer a very big loss. So sometimes when we go for producing the products, the existing players start playing fall. They start playing tricks. They reduce the price, and the entire Indian domestic market destabilizes. So these are the challenges. Then in liberalized WTO era, export opportunities are unavailable to Indian dairy establishment. I have already told you that government has also banned the export sometimes back to control the milk price. So these are the major lacunae which affect the Indian export, and it is essential that considerable importance is given to the dairy sector, which is now being government has started giving, and it is now identified as one of the vehicles to establish to enhance the growth in the Indian economy. So the scenario is now changing, but a lot of change is still required. In 2018-19, India's dairy export rose 126% to 123,877 million tons of milk. So in physical terms, in quantity terms, India exported 1,23,877 million tons, which in terms of money value was equivalent to rupees 2,700 crores. Huh? And the previous year, the quantitative term was 54,828 million tons. So you can see that there is a quantum jump in terms of physical milk products in the physical quantity, and it shows that yes, the things are improving. The environment are now becoming conducive. The enabling environment has been created. Government is giving priority, according support, and because of that, now the export is also improving. The skimmed milk powder, casein products, butter, ghee, these are the products India is involved in the international market. And I have already discussed Turkey, UAE, Iran, Bangladesh, Bhutan are the major markets. So all these are neighboring countries. India exports value we have discussed. There are problems and issues in dairy export. The major problem faced for exporting dairy product includes poor microbiological quality of milk. We know that our milk is produced under very unhygienic condition, voluntarily or involuntarily, and that is to be improved. It is essential. Right from the milk production, it becomes contaminated, it becomes infected, it becomes impure, it contains a lot of impurity in terms of foreign particles, the microbial loads. So this is essential that the milk is produced under the good management practices. Then domestic support provided by OECD countries to their dairy sector is very high. They provide high subsidies, and because of that, we become uncompetitive. High level of market price support for subsidies. Many countries provide very high level subsidy in market. So they keep the price. They compensate the losses price by giving the subsidies to the producers, and because of that, the producers reduce their price and create restrictions for the entry of other countries like India. Then India has very high tariffs, and on Indian products, often the countries who are importing from India apply the SPSS norm, sanitary and phytosanitary norms. There are two types of barriers: tariff barriers and non-tariff barriers. Among the tariff barriers, there are tariff rates which are imposed on the products which are imported. That is fine. There is a limit. They can't go beyond that. So although the tariff rates are very high, but apart from tariffs, they apply other technical barriers. And in technical barriers, sanitary and phytosanitary measures, they say that yes, Indian milk products are contaminated. They contain high bacterial load. There is coliform. So these are the issues which are often raised, and that becomes restrictive for the Indian dairy products in the international trade. So these are the challenges, and when an entrepreneur selects the dairy sector, chooses the dairy sector, wants to operate in the dairy sector, then he should be aware of the holistic scenario, whole scenario of the dairy sector, right from production to marketing. Indian dairy sector is unique, has unique characteristics. Production is a small, scattered, done by the small farmers. Mostly poor are involved. Most of them are poor and they can't afford to apply all those SOPs, standard operating practices, or good management practices, unless they are given the required supports in terms of subsidies or other way. So here, the entrepreneur can take advantage. They can link those producers, provide them trainings, make them aware about the benefits of the quality milk production, assist them in terms of financial support. Then, uh, then buy back the milk from the producers from there, and by this way, they can increase their marketable surplus, they can increase their financial resources, and due to guaranteed marketing, due to assured linkage with the market, producers will definitely apply the good management practices, will be able to produce the quality milk, and the entrepreneurs can procure those milk, collect those milk, and since the milk has good quality, they can fetch good price by branding, by making propaganda, advertisement, and this is the area where lot of opportunities exist and that could be harnessed. So thank you. Thank you very much. Any question? Hello.
Good morning, sir. Sir, what is OECD countries?
OECD countries. बताओ, ये तो बहुत कॉमन है जनरल नॉलेज का क्वेश्चन. दिस इज द क्विज. आपके क्विज में यही पूछूंगा, आप खोज के बताओ मेरे को. बहुत कॉमन, बहुत यूज होता है इसका.